Hello everyone, I am the Weather Dude, welcome back, and today we are going to be talking about the upcoming major winter storms, kind of like a train of winter storms that are going to be trekking across the country. I do apologize for being out for a while because there's been some issues on my computer that I've been trying to fix, combine that with, of course, lots of schoolworks and stuff like that, but thankfully we've been on break, so I've had time to resolve the issue, and we are back just in time for the new year. Glad to be back, and we're going to be talking about the train of winter storms that could be upon us. We actually had one recently, actually where I am here in the mid-Atlantic. We actually just had a little burst of snow today, had a little coating. It was surprising because it wasn't supposed to stick, but it has changed to sleet and rain since. All right, so we're going to be talking about the upcoming storms that could be coming up, and what is this basically pattern that we're going to be coming up upon soon. So looking at the oscillations here, we have, of course, first the PNA index. Now, something about the PNA is that when it's in its negative phase like this, it actually does mean colder air in the west and warmer air in the east. Hence why Seattle had like a high temperatures in the 20s today, and how it's been snowing and will snow there in Seattle, which is like, I know they're close to Canada and they're very far north, but because of their proximity to the ocean, it's actually very rare for them to get snow. Actually, last time they did see snow was 4 years ago, but before that, they haven't snowed in a long time. So it's actually rare for them. So in this PNA pattern, that's what's happening. And obviously, it stands for Pacific North American Index. So that's obviously a good, good oscillation to use for a place like Seattle in its negative phase. But the AO, the Arctic oscillation, is also in its negative phase right now, and will continue to be at least through, from what the ensembles or what these spaghetti models forecast, at least through maybe even mid-January. And the AO means that colder air can spill into the central and eastern United States. That's kind of like what the Arctic oscillation means if it's in its negative phase. And you can see why December has been so warm, because at least for the first half, it's been in a positive phase. And of course, there is a lag time. So it's not, things aren't going to change as soon as it hits negative phase. Obviously, it's going to take a little while. So that's why most of December has been the way it's been. Especially for folks in the central and the east. But even if you look at it, like I know I saw on the Weather Channel, like they had like a map of like temperatures overall for December, above average for most of the country, west or east. So it's been an interesting month here for December, but things are starting to change a little bit. The NAO also going to be trending downward through the new year. Then the models sort of cut it on the even line after that. Climate Prediction Center, let's look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from January 2nd to the 6th. And you can see it looks a lot, different than what we've been seeing as a country, right? Like there's no warm air, it's more cold air, especially for the northeast, the north central, and the west, and Alaska as well, which is interesting. So obviously, a colder Alaska can also mean colder air can spill into the west. And there's like a darker blue region. Now, again, the darker colors doesn't necessarily mean colder than the light colors. It just means you have a higher probability of it. And in the south, all right, you can see we got some warmer air, kind of like a little southeast ridge maybe going on here. All right, we got like the jet stream coming in like this, and also a jet stream coming in like this potentially to keep the southeast nice and warm from basically Virginia down to Florida. All right, now if we look here at the the precipitation anomalies for that same time frame, or at least the precipitation outlook, actually does look above average. So maybe you got a little subtropical jet going on here. So some warmer and wetter conditions, basically from PA, Delaware, Jersey, down to Florida, all right, and everywhere in between. While the west, of course, is also staying above average precipitation according to the Climate Prediction Center, and the central part of the United States is staying dry, or drier, not going to be dry the whole time, obviously, and then also in Alaska. Now, the 8 to 14 day looks pretty interesting because you can almost see that AO phase kind of start to kick in, where the cold air, you can almost see like in the arcs, how it's kind of like transitioning into the United States, kind of going in a flow like almost like that. All right, so it's going from northwest to southeast. Colder, you can almost see it's like pushing its way in. The northern tip of New England, slight chance, a third probability of seeing some cooler temperatures, but still the west and now the north central as well, and now the mid-Atlantic, coastal, northeast, southeast, and south central are all above average for temperatures. And precipitation kind of looks like, it's starting to look like that typical La Nina winter, where we kind of have like the above average precipitation here and here. If you go into a traditional La Nina precip map, it looks similar to this, not exactly, but it looks similar to that, right? Very similar, because the south is also can be, drier in a La Nina. So this kind of resembles what a La Nina winter would look like, sort of, for the precipitation standards. All right, now the good part. We're going to get to go through some models. The GFS we're going to come back to because the 18Z is coming in as I'm recording this. If it's not, I don't think it's going to be ready by then to go full range. So we might have to scale back to 12Z. But we're going to come back to it. And we're going to start off with the European model, actually. All right, so European model is showing some very interesting storms coming up. So here's the low to the north. Obviously, out ahead of it, you're going to have like that line, sort of like a warm front where it's, snow and mix on the front end. And once it lifts through, you can almost hit the 540 line, kind of helps you tell that. Where the red line's to the south, slightly warmer. Blue line's to the north, colder. Also, because of the high pressure, it's kind of like supplying the cold air in that was in place. All right, and that's kind of like what's pushing along that warm front. And that's going to move to the north. All right, transition most areas to rain. Now, look at this. This is just 30 hours ahead, so their confidence for this is probably higher than if it was like a week out. Very heavy snow band for areas like Chicago and Gary, Indiana. So definitely keep an eye on it if you're in those areas. Once we get to the snowfall map, I might zoom in a little closer so you can see it better. Also places in southeastern Wisconsin, all right, and pretty heavy band of snow. That pushes north, kind of like breaks off to the east. So places like Erie and Buffalo start to get in on the action. Then that pushes to the east, kind of diminishes out. Then another low generates. Not as much snow with this one. Really nothing too much going on in the west, except we got that atmospheric river. Obviously some storms for Southern California. They need it. It's been one heck of a drought, but, of course, too much of a good thing is never a good thing, as they always say. And you can see, all right, mostly rain with this one for this next low that's going to be tracking across the east. So that moves through. And look how many storms we were talking about. The one that's exiting, that's one. Two right here. This is the third storm in like 72 hours. All right, so these things are going to be coming in fast, coming in quick. All right, you can see a new low is starting to enter the northwest. Some snow there for Washington, Oregon, Idaho, etc. All right, so keep an eye on that one. All right, because that's actually going to drop to the south through the Rockies. All right, as the storms typically do, they then eject out of the Rockies with some intense power. Right, so now we got Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Oklahoma, Panhandle at least, and some snow. We got sleet and ice for Kansas and Missouri here, and then rain to the south, and maybe even some thunderstorms. So this looks like a more powerful winter system. That's going to then eject out of the Rockies. All right. 997 millibar, pretty, not mediocre intense system. Some more snow for Chicago, some sleet and snow for Gary, Indiana. I was about to say Wisconsin. Southeastern Wisconsin, obviously places like, Madison, Wisconsin, for example. Some snow. And then through mainland of Michigan, and then moving through, and then obviously crossing into Canada because there's no U.S. land up there. And then some rain and storms off to the south and east, right? It's a classic, January system, classic January snowmaker. But again, it's really not that far south. Like Oklahoma and Texas may get some snow out of this, but that's like in the panhandles of those two states. But other than that, though, like places that you would think would see snow at this time, you're like Pennsylvania, northern New York, northern Ohio, probably going to be mostly rain, at least from what they're depicting so far. All right, but then right behind that, there you see an abrupt or an intense coastal low with some snow and sleet from Jersey down to Tennessee. All right, so that is what the European model has been indicating. All right, and obviously as it moves off the coast, heavy snow band coming in on that back side. All right, then that sort of starts to move away, and things calm down at least in the east, and we still got some snow remaining in the west. So Euro, very interesting. Now over 10 days, right, you can see that coastal storm that was in the east, a few inches there. Chicago, now this isn't just from one storm. That first system I was talking about with that had that heavy band of snow, all right, once that moves through, for Chicago at least, that could bring like a quick 4 to 6 inches, like, in a snap, maybe even a few hours. All right, but in total, through the next 10 days, going through January 6th here in the morning, you can see about 12 to 14 inches, 12 to 13 inches for Chicago and Gary. Remember, Chicago's like right here. Gary's pretty much like almost right next to it in Indiana. All right, 12 or 13 inches there. And look at the snow in the west. All right, now, is that normal? Yes, but obviously Seattle probably in that 12-inch zone. I don't know how to feel about that because they could get some snow. Like I would say that's more spread out over time. Maybe like a quick, 1 to 3 inches comes in, leaves 1 to 3 inches, But I mean, the Euro, the mountains do kind of like make it more complicated, but 5 to 10 inches of snow for near Seattle pretty impressive for this time of year. Even in the South, look at this, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama could still get a couple or maybe even a few inches in the next 10 days. Now, again, nothing is set in stone. I'm just showing you what the Euro is depicting so far. All right, next we have, I believe, the Canadian. Yes, we do. All right, so here's a Canadian. Again, first storm rolls through. Kind of went over that with the European model. That kind of starts to make its exit. All right, then here's that same system the Euro was talking about. Now, looks like a bit more in the way of snow, or at least lasting a little bit longer for a place like Chicago. Then it starts to diminish as it moves to the east. All right, so far, Canadian and Euro are looking pretty similar. All right. Then we have another low that starts to move from southwest to northeast. All right, that moves out by New Year's. So New Year's could be a snowy one in some spots in the northeast, according to this model. Then here's that more powerful system, that mediocre system I was talking about, right? I mean, it's pretty large. I mean, 994 millibars of pressure, right? You got the lowest area pressure encompassing like 3 states, pretty much, all right? With the low center being in Ohio. All right, I mean, you got rain reaching Massachusetts all the way down to Louisiana and Texas, then snow going all the way up into the UP of Michigan. All right, it's a pretty big system. All right, then it starts to move off to north and east, kind of branches off into 2 lows, one off near Boston, one near Detroit, and they just connect to make one, one big area of snow. Wait, that'd be pretty amazing if it happened. Obviously, that most of that's in Canada. Then both lows sort of like combine again, make one big monster of a system, and then just eject out into Canada. All right. And then other than that, that is really it with the Canadian model. No snow areas, far south like the Euro was talking about by any stretch, but overall, not too bad. More snow for areas, 12 to 15 inches, in Iowa, Wisconsin here. Still even 6 to 10 inches for Chicago. A lot more snow for the Sierra in California, according to the Canadian. But again, snow in places where it already should be this time of year, like nothing, no big system that's dipping down in the, the southeast. As those are the consequences or the trade-offs of a La Nina year, all right? Especially for areas like, it can really be a toss-up for the coastal northeast, not interior, but coastal northeast and mid-Atlantic, because the I-95 corridors, so to speak, because you guys over there, right, like, La Ninas can really depend on one thing because the temperatures are going to be moderated. Like that was what we saw a lot last winter, all right, for you guys in the mid-Atlantic, right? There was a lot of snow in February, had a nice 1, 2, 3 punch of storms, but temperatures were moderated. Snow mixed with sleet and rain a lot. Pretty much all depends, not all depends, but it does depend on a lot of that southeast ridge. Is it there? How far does it go? Because normally the southeast ridge will keep areas like, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, maybe even Southern Virginia warm, all right? Then it's kind of like this gray area in between, and it kind of leaves out the northeast to have some cold and snow. But if it can reach farther north, then more of that 95 quarter stays, warm, maybe even warm and dry. That's like a 1-2 punch. Warm is bad enough, but warm and dry, oh, that's not good, all right? Especially for you snow lovers. Now, the CFS model, all right, goes kind of more long range, so take it with a grain of salt. I'm actually going to kind of go through, at least through like most of it, just to see, what we could have in store, right? So here's a Saturday system, the end of the weekend, early next week, which actually does, have an I-95 with the exception of Boston and Hartford. But I-95 quarter snow for the, bigger cities like New York, Philly, DC, Baltimore, all right? So that's a lot of model. I mean, the CFS has been doing that. The Euros doing that. The Canadian, not really. We'll see what the GFS is saying. All right. There you go. Moving off to the east, another system enters on the west coast, and then that sort of moves its way towards the east. All right. And then here comes another system into the northwest. So it's pretty much a train of systems. All right. And then another system forms in the Rockies, and this looks like a more larger system. That pressure gradient is just expanding all the way out. Right. I mean that looks like a pretty large system as well. All right. And I won't go, I'll go through most of it, but not too far else. So I'll probably stop around here. All right, so you can see snow forming. I mean, like I said, take this with a grain of salt, please, because we're out, mid-January. Like we're almost like 3 weeks out at this point. All right, so snow depth, meaning how much snow is on the ground, right? You can see after that Monday system. All right, let's go back to around Monday, right around here. You can see the mid-Atlantic started getting some snow right there. All right. And then Thursday, Saturday, actually, sorry, this is Monday. Sorry, I was a week behind. There's the snow in the Mid-Atlantic for Monday. And you can see, according to this is very bullish because this is like snow depth, meaning like this is like how much snow is on the ground. Like this is like looking at a snow cover map, but in the future is basically what this is. Now, you see how it's kind of like smoothed out. It's not very, like detailed, right? And if you want proof of that, take a look at the bottom left of your screen. I would love to see the day where Los Angeles gets like 2 to 4 inches of snow. All right, it's not very detailed, all right, because they also only have the Sierra with a few inches when they probably have feet up there right now. They've been getting feet of snow. They're going to be getting feet of snow again. So this isn't very detailed. I'm not saying it is a bad thing. It's a bad thing more for the coastal and mountainous regions. For you guys like in the plains, it can make sense a little bit. But will Oklahoma see 12 inches of snow? Probably not. I mean, maybe in mid-January, but not in the near future. All right, so here we are at the GFS. Now, the 18Z model run didn't really load in. It was like only going out a few days, like 4 or 5 days. So I couldn't really do that because we wouldn't be able to go out very far. So we had to scale back to the 12Z. All right, but here we go. I mean, look at for long range, it's nice to have the latest run, but it's more of a bigger deal for a shorter range to have to get that, them updates in. But here we go. I mean, Wisconsin, Ohio, still got some heavy bursts of snow. This is like Tuesday, so this is pretty soon. And it just fizzles out, moves to the northeast. Another system comes in, maybe some snow and rain for Detroit. That moves through. Then we got that Saturday, Sunday system. Again, classic setup, just like what we saw today. If you folks live in the northeast and mid-Atlantic, you know what I've been talking about, obviously, with the kind of that warm frontish setup that we've had today. Same exact setup. High pressure here that's throwing cold air, that's trying to lock it in place. Then we got the low pressure bringing up the warm air, and they kind of converge along this front, right? And it's a warm front, so colder air out ahead of it, warmer air behind it. And the front's pretty much sitting right where that ice is, right? Because ahead of it, it's going to snow, behind it, it's going to rain, right? And these kind of setups, for snow lovers, you probably don't want because the snow that you get is going to turn into rain and just melt. Rain to snow would be better, but, the snow would also take a while to stick because, the ground's been wet and warm, right? But, we snow lovers, for those of you watching that are snow lovers, we prefer all snow, of course, but, maybe a little ice on top to make the sledding nice and fun. But see, this is where the GFS gets a little wacky because they have a low pressure moving through, and just off to the left, just off to the west, they have heavy, like, magenta on this website is like, for these models, what they use, magenta is like, I wouldn't say whiteout blizzard conditions, but very heavy snow. For that little patch to see it, and the fact that they're pretty far south of the 540 line, they're south of it, not far south, all right, but there's still warm air in place, all right, so, that would have to be like, this low would have to be way stronger to have that kind of wraparound cold to turn that into snow. Not a very strong low. It's strong, but not like what you would need to see. Then that sort of moves its way through. All right, now we're heading to the beginning of January 5th, 6th, 7th. All right, and then they're pretty quiet, and then boom. You got this huge ring of ice and sleet and then snow out ahead of that. This is like one of those messy systems. Pretty strong low pressure, 991. Then it goes to 975, 974. Snow moving through Canada. And even sleet and ice for areas in northern New England. Like you can see La Nina is making its presence known with that, warmer air coming in for the areas in the east. That's not always what happens with La Nina, but it can. And then we got snow moving through here, but of course we've reached the end of the model run. I know, so sad. All right, so here we go with the totals here. So again, if that does happen to be true, what they're saying, 6+ inches of snow for the south, have at a GFS, you do you. But just note that it's a possibility, considering the Euro was also pointing out, but at least they were like, an inch or two. That's more reasonable. But 6 to 12, I don't think so. Maybe for the mountainous areas, I'll hand it to you, maybe. But be on the lookout. GFS and Euro both point out some, again, it's long range, but keep an eye on it. I certainly will be as well. Of course, southeastern Canada, right, in between the two areas of the U.S. here, 12 to 24 plus, even 36 plus, 40 plus, and near the UP, Michigan, like, wow. But snow, good cover, northern plains into the northeast, even mid-Atlantic a little bit. Now, remember, this is assuming a 10 to 1 ratio. All right, obviously, this isn't what's going to be on the ground. or it could be, but it's not. It's not what this is promised to be. This is how much snow is falling out of the sky. 159 inches for the Sierra Nevada. 160, 172. I'll probably keep finding a bigger number if I keep going. You're probably saying, nah, that's definitely not gonna happen. No, it's actually pretty. If this was like 2 days from now, no, obviously not. But for 16 days out, that could happen. So Sierra Nevada with the La Nina pattern, a negative PNA, you guys are loving it out there, I'm sure. Making up for that drought for sure. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's glad to be back. I am the Weather Dude signing off. Till next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video.